Review of TV. This is your first time tuning in? Welcome. If you're a return subscriber, then glad to see you back again. Today we're doing a video on fuel pumps, specifically for a 03 Honda Civic. The reason we're doing this video is because I've been smelling some fuel while driving this vehicle, and it's starting to take a few more seconds longer to crank it on with the ignition than normal. So that's probably a red flag that there's something going on with the fuel system. I've looked in the engine compartment and I've looked under the vehicle for leaking fuel and I'm not finding it. So what can happen with some of these fuel pumps is they can spring little cracks at the top of the housing of these units. And when they do, they have pressure and fuel fumes and stuff that can leak out in that compartment. The fuel pump is under the back seat of this particular vehicle. Probably be different, maybe under the tank or in the tank. As far as getting access to on other vehicles. This one, luckily, we can just pull the back seat up and we have a compartment that goes right into the fuel pump, so it'll be a lot easier to change. So I wanted to go over a couple quick things that we'll need to be able to do this. Probably have these laying around at your house, so nothing crazy. You're going to want to, for this vehicle, an extension and a 10mm socket, because this is what's going to take a bolt out that's in the seat, holding the seat down, along with two other clips. The ratchet wrench, of course, a pair of some needle nose pliers, and a flathead screwdriver. I'm going to use a impact to be able to take that nut off. One thing I would suggest using, because on this vehicle there's a door once you lift up the seat that you have to unscrew 4 screws on to be able to take off to get access to the fuel pump. If your fuel pump's leaking, I wouldn't suggest using a drill to take those screws out, because inside the little motors of these drills, they throw sparks, and if you ever pull the trigger in the dark, you'll see it. And if you have fumes coming from that fuel and you're doing that, it's a good way to possibly ignite up the vehicle, and then you'll never get the fuel pump done at that point. So we have a fuel pump here, which I'll show you guys. This particular one for this Honda Civic is pretty big, actually. It almost looks like a ship or something. It's pretty huge. Comes with the lock ring, which will lock the pump in place. Of course, there's a gasket that it comes with, and this one's already got it on and ready to go. I got this on Amazon. This is not an OEM, straight from Honda. This, if you can see closely, zoom in on that, is OE. So we're not at OEM, but you still get half the fun. So we're gonna go ahead and try the OE and see how it works. But once again, this is it, and I'll come around. And on this particular unit, you can see the bottom of the housing here. It's got its little float, which is actually going to hook on to the pump, and that'll all be stuck down into the hole and put into place. So we're going to go ahead and show you guys a couple steps you want to take before installing this. There's a relay inside the vehicle that you should probably take off and then prime your vehicle a little bit, or start it to take down the pressure, and then we'll unhook the ground wire, which is on the battery. So that will ensure that there's no major pressure when we go to unhook the lines off of this fuel pump, so we're not spraying fuel everywhere. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start to take out the glove box, which will show you how it's done, a couple screws, because the relay is unfortunately hidden behind the glove compartment inside of the vehicle. Then we'll pull a fuse out of the fuse relay area, and that should ensure, with taking off the negative wire on the battery, that this guy will be depressurized and we can successfully remove this pump with no issues. We'll be right back to show you how it goes. Okay, so first things first, there's a relay that's behind this glove box. We've got to take the glove box off. If you look down in this area down here, there's a screw here, which you're going to need a long Phillips screwdriver if that's how it is on your vehicle. And the other one's over here. That should release the brackets or the clips that are keeping this thing swaying, hinging on, and then we should be able to pull this out. So you'll want to get in on the side like that and keep a light. Just go ahead and release those. Should only take a second for each side. And keep in mind, guys, this is my first fuel pump replacement on any vehicle. I haven't had the luxury of being able to do a fuel pump because I haven't had a vehicle that's needed one until now. So you'll take this journey with me, and if I screw up anywhere or find any roadblocks, whether they're permanent or temporary, I guess it'll be a learning lesson of what not to do or what to do when you do yours. So I'm not ashamed. I'm not gonna edit none of that out because it's kind of cool that we just do this ourselves. And let's see, it doesn't seem like it's so easy. See, that's what I was told. Oh, just 2 screws and it comes right out. Yeah, right. That's not the case. Also have a panel down here that comes off with some clips. Let's see here. Looks like there may be more than 2 screws, guys. See, we're already learned something new, and there is. So there's 2 screws on the bottom here. Same thing, Phillips. It's gonna be hard for you to see where my cameraman's sitting, but there's one that's just right down here, and it's a black screw. It's real easy to see, and then there's another one. So I'll go ahead and just undo these. Probably fast forward this, and well, what do you know? It's not a Phillips. Oh, it is a Phillips, but this Phillips is just not. There we go. Alright, let's do that first one. See? Just a simple Phillips screw. Then one more on this side. And you can use probably your screw guns for these to make it faster. I'm just taking my time and doing it with a screw driver because that's what I have. Just a second here. Alright, looking a little bit loose now. Oh, what do you know? So, and there goes your box. So yeah, these 2 clips are what's holding this up. You kind of got to put this back in cockeyed to get these 2 little rollers back in. And then under the bottom, you'll just stick your screws back in and this comes off. So let's take a look right here. This is the important part. You have some relays here. And I believe, don't quote me, but this is a PGF relay number 2 for the fuel, but it's this blue one at any rate. So I'm gonna have to get in here and figure out how this one comes out because I don't want to break the little tiny clip here and screw myself from being able to get it back in. So I think, let's see, you would think a relay would just pop right out and that would be it, but this guy, looks like it's starting to come out. I can see a relay already that's missing out of here. That's just an empty slot. So what the hell? These have clips they could undo. See guys, learning. I'm thinking these have clips. I know it's hard for you to see where I'm at, but we'll figure it out and then we'll show you. So if that's the case, and it's tight in here, guys. There's a lot of wiring and everything else around this, so this may take a couple seconds. But we'll come back to you guys in just a second once I get it out, and then we'll show you how it was locked in there. Okay, so here's the relay, guys. It has these little pegs on either side, and that's where these 2 clips are holding it down. And I don't know if you can see it, but right down here, and you may have to zoom in, there's a little slot, and this guy sits right in there. The clips are built into the housing where this little relay sits in, so it's not like a clip that's going to come off. You just got to open on either side, pull the clip out, and pull the clip out this way, and then slowly wiggle this up. Don't get crazy with it. If you break any of these little pegs or you break the little area where this guy sits into, you're going to have way more problems than just your fuel pump. So we're going to get rid of the other fuse, which is a number 15 on the other side. And then we'll try cranking the car a little bit. That's supposed to relieve pressure in the lines. Then we'll pull off the negative battery cable just to be safe. Then we'll open up the fuel cap. And at that point, we'll start working on the fuel pump itself, and we shouldn't have any back pressure when we disconnect the lines. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get the second fuse out. It's a number 15, it's in port number 17 according to the manual. So basically you have to unlock your little fuel panel on this car. That just pops down. If you look in the back here, you can see that there's fuses. And it's gonna be this blue one, number 15 right here, is to the fuel pump. And before you do that, since we went ahead and pulled the relay, you want to go ahead and relieve pressure by cranking on the car slightly. Just like that. Notice it didn't start because the relay's out. Then you want to pull this fuse to your fuel pump, number 15. There it is. And I'm just putting everything right up here where I don't lose it, my relay and my fuse. Okay, so now that we got the relay behind the glove box out, we got the number 15 fuse that's sitting in the number 17 port under the steering wheel to the fuel pump done. We're gonna go ahead and take the ground wire off of the battery. Cool thing about these Hondas is they use a lot of 10mm bolts on everything. So the same bolt you're gonna have to take out of the center seat to get the back seat off to get to the pump is the same size as the screw that's on your negative cable on the battery. So you don't have to get a lot of different sockets to do this. You take it off, put that screw back through there, put that nut back on. You don't have to worry about losing that. Common sense. Alright, and keep it away so it's not touching or it doesn't go back and start touching. Okay, and then let's walk over here. And another thing that a lot of people seem to forget is to relieve the pressure under the gas cap. Go ahead and open that. Simple. Take the gas cap off, put it there, and bam. The next step now is to go under the back seat and get access to the fuel pump. We'll be right back to show you that. Okay, so it's time to start getting access to the fuel pump, which is under the back seat. A couple things you may want to have on hand is obviously the tool with a 10mm wrench to get to the bolt. You want to have an old ragged shirt or something that you can put around the fuel pump when you take the fuel lines off, so any residual that comes out possibly won't be soaking up everywhere else. I would suggest getting a little tiny shop vac like I showed you at the beginning of the video. Because what happens is there's a lot of debris that can get built up. Even rodents get in there and they build nests and stuff around the fuel pump. You'll notice sometimes, depending on where you live. So you'll want to vacuum all that out, because if you pull the fuel pump up and they have all those leaves and debris around it, it's going to get into your fuel tank and that can cause further problems. I would suggest getting some thick gauge plastic gloves at Harbor Freight or wherever you guys get them in your hometown. And I do have this. This wasn't to set a trend. This was actually to pull up over my mouth when we go to pull the fuel pump out, which I can't even get this piece up. But yeah, just like that. So if you don't like the way the gas smells, some people love it. Some people even huff it. I don't, and I don't like the way it smells. So I have this so I can actually put it over my mouth and not breathe in the fumes so I don't get lightheaded. Make sure you guys have a well ventilated area. This car happens to have a sunroof, so we open that. We have some fans going. All the doors are open, and that's about the best we're gonna be able to do. So let's find this bolt here. It's gonna be somewhere in the middle of the seat, right here. So it's hard to see, but if you get up and look, you can see there's a bolt right down in there, and it's a little bit hard to see in the dark, but that's where this 10mm socket's gonna go, just like that. And we're just gonna till that bolt comes all the way out. And it's really simple. It's just one bolt, one 10mm bolt. I think that's good enough. Let's see. You just feel it down in there until it comes out. You may have to do it for a little bit longer once we get it out. It's good that you guys see how not easy it can be sometimes. Some of the videos are edited. We cut out parts of the clips just to get right to the point. I wanted everyone to see that it may take a little bit more effort than you want to put into it. So feels like that bolt's out. We'll get to it in a second. There's two clips here and down here, just like that. You can see right here, it goes down into the slot right here. Then if that bolt's released all the way, which it may still not be, doesn't feel like it's all the way out, but I don't think I need that part. We'll get it. There it is. So there it is. Put this somewhere safe too. I usually just keep everything in the area somewhere right there. Should cop out. We'll go ahead and remove it. Surprisingly enough, there's not a bunch of change under the seat. I was hoping to find an old $100 bill from the previous owner, but looks like they were pretty clean. Put this somewhere safe so it doesn't get all dirtier than it is. You might even consider steam cleaning your back seat while it's out, but that's up to you. So, the magical box. this is where the fuel pump sits. 4 Phillips screws. And then this is obviously the connections that power the fuel pump. So this is the part where I said you might not want to use the drill gun because it has sparks, and if there's fumes coming out, it could ignite, catch your car on fire. If it's in your garage, there goes your garage. So we're gonna go ahead and take these out with a Phillips screwdriver. We'll be right back. Okay, so if you look down here, to me it looks like there's 4 different screws here, different colors. There's paint on this one's shiny, this one's shiny, that one's shiny. I don't know if that's a coincidence or someone's already been here before, but when you take these off, don't be in a rush to rip the lid right off. If you do, you're gonna rip the cable out of the top of the pump because it goes through this lid and then right to the pump. There's not a lot of slack. So when you get these 4 screws out, set them off to the side there, and be prepared to just ease the lid up a little bit. Don't go crazy. I'm predicting, hopefully, if we made our guess right, and it's 100 degrees out right now, guys, so it's hot, but there's gonna be some fuel seepage around this pump. And that'll confirm what I've been smelling, and then most likely we're dealing with a pump that's just getting ready to go. So look, we're gonna take this off. It's kind of stuck on there a little bit. There it is. And voila, come on up here and look around. Ooh, I can smell it right away. So here's the clip that goes to the connection on the lid that I was telling you to be careful about. You can see all this residual dirt down here, and if we look at all this moisture. That's definitely not water, guys. That's the pump. And if you look at the top, this is a sure indication of a pump starting to give away. If you look at these cracks on here, what happens is when we start up the vehicle, the pressure starts coming through these cracks and it seeps little spatulets of gasoline and pressure all over the place. Eventually, if the seal on this lid isn't sealing enough, you'll smell the fumes come up in the vehicle, or you may even smell the fumes escape under the car, and it'll seem like you're getting fuel on the side of the door. Fumes, I mean, outside of the exterior of the vehicle. To take this off, there's a little clip right up here. If you look on this other side, there's just a little clip right there, a little button. So we're gonna go ahead and just, and this might be kind of glued on there, guys, so you really have to be careful when you're pulling this off because you don't want to destroy it. But that's the button right there. So you're gonna squeeze that down and then gently, don't go like this and don't hold it by the wires pulling it. Just pull it and ease it out. And then look, everything's out of the way and we have access to our fuel line, and it's dirty in here. So what I'm gonna do, clean this area up first. So we're gonna go ahead and get a vacuum and just clean around it and wipe it off before I take this connection. And then we'll stick this guy all around this fuel line here and we'll get this clip off. And I'll show you a couple other things because you're gonna have to reuse part of this clip on your new fuel pump, and you're probably gonna wanna clean off this lock ring that goes around because you have to untwist this off. And if you don't have the tool, we're going to show you in just a second how to get that off too. Because sometimes the new lock rings on these OE, not OEM, remember I was telling you half the fun, don't fit correctly. So you'll reuse this old ring, but just use the pump and the new seal and the little clip that comes off of here. So we're going to clean this up and then we'll come back to it and show you how to take this off and what it's going to look like. Okay, so come on and look up this way, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and release the lock ring. I went ahead and I just took a shirt and I stuck this screwdriver in the shirt like that, and I just kind of cleaned around, and I did actually use the shop vac, no explosion, so the fumes didn't get into the motor head of the shop vac and cause it to ignite up or anything. So what I was telling you before, which I neglected to show you in the intro, was a couple extra tools. You're gonna need a hammer or a little mallet, whichever you have, and preferably a little crowbar like this. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and put this up against one of these little ridges right here, and remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So we're gonna try to loosen this cap because I don't have the proper tool, and most people don't unless they're in the industry. So I'm just gonna slowly move it. You see it turning? Just like that. And you just take your time. Don't get all crazy Thor with the hammer and stuff. Don't go psycho. Just ease it little by little. And I would even suggest, now that we've loosened some of that garbage there, and I already have it here, it's gonna get loud for a quick second, but that you go ahead and vacuum some of that loose residual. Roll that up. real easy, in and out. So let's continue to loosen it. Now that we've gotten it loose, which is cool, we can go ahead and get that line taken off first, because you're gonna need to essentially have the line off to get the lock ring all the way out. Let's put this guy around. You wanna get it around it really good, and even enough that when you're removing this line, if it sprays, it doesn't go up into your face or anything else. So just uncover it. These two little clips, you see how easy that was to push them in? Now it's just about pulling that off. And look at that. Look at that. On some instructional videos that you may watch as you're browsing through, you'll notice that a lot of pressure, it's squirting out and it's just leaking all over. It's because they didn't release, and I hate saying the word release, but they didn't remove the number 15 fuse and the 17 port. If you don't remove those fuses, you're gonna have a problem with the fuel leaking out. So that's good, we're done there. Not even a lot of fuel. One thing I would suggest and recommend when you're doing this though is that you try not to have a lot of gas, but always are you able to help that, because if your pump goes out when you have a full tank, then you're just gonna have a full tank of fuel when you're dealing with this. So save this old ring, this lock ring, because it'll fit around the threading on the actual housing here. So this may not pop out so easy, but it may. Look at that. Man, it's just been really nice and easy going. So we're gonna get this guy out. And this is something you want to pay attention to actually. I'll put it right back in. See this little notch? Well, if you notice here on the new one, it has an arrow. And that means that you want this to face towards the back seat, the back of the car. Just like it shows, the line will face this way, then you'll have that one facing that way, that'll be there, that'll be there. That's why they put that little arrow there. No, it doesn't mean face to the north for that one guy. All right, so this is the fun part. Give me just a little bit of room there, buddy. I wanna smack you in the head with this. This doesn't always come out as easy as one would like. So you gotta kinda, there I go lying again, came out real easy. There's gonna get some fuel around the area here, the housing, when you have a full tank, like I said. And this sucks because there's nothing I can do about having a full tank. But keep a shirt out. So you want to kind of put this on top of a shirt when you're removing it. And then there's a float down in here. Keep this line, this is your fuel line, it's gonna get in the way. But you can see that the float kind of tucks under, just like that. Remove this and let's go outside, buddy, and we'll look at it closer out there. Okay, whew, it is hotter than Satan's nutsack. But here's the old little gasket, and it sits just like that, just like on the new one. When you're putting the new one in, make sure you already have this gasket on. If you don't, it's gonna give you problems, and don't use an adhesive gasket. That's not gonna stick right, but here's your float. Here's the cracks we were talking about that it's seeping out of on top to cause those fumes that you're smelling, and here's the ship. Like I said, this thing is huge for a little Honda. Looks like the Titanic. If you don't know how to on the new one, if you notice the bulber, the float on the new one wasn't attached yet. It's off to the side. You have to attach it onto the new one. We'll show you right now in just a second. Just look at the old one. It'll show you exactly how it sits. And you've seen when we were putting it through the hole that this bulber, and this is gonna leak fuel, is gonna go tuck under first, and then you're gonna slip this guy in. And we'll show you as we're doing it, but that's kind of how it's gonna work. So let me get the new one, and we'll get the float attached to it, and we'll get ready to install it. All right, guys, so excuse me for having the fan on, but I have to have it on. It's way too fumy in here like fuel, so I don't wanna suffocate us. But come in and closer and let's look at this old unit. So this little clip that the fuel line connects to, you have to take it off because unfortunately none of the new ones come with it. You can see they clearly tell you that on the new label. So come in and get really close so you can see these little clips. If you look at this little ridge right here, these little clips right here, it's hitting that ridge. So you don't even have to do anything fancy. You just gotta get your screwdriver in there and just barely lift up on that side. And sometimes it's not as easy as it looks, but you just gotta do this. Once you do one side, the other side pops off, so you gotta kind of use some force, but not enough to break it. I wish this would went a little bit easier, but you can see what I'm talking about. These little clips right here rub up on this lip, so don't be crazy with it. Just pop it off, take your rag, Be gentle because you can break these easily. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it on this new one. So we just take this cap off, and that cap just clearly keeps anything from getting down in there, so you can dispose of that. And this is just gonna snug right over, and look how easy that was. So now you have your new clip ready for your line. And then we've got to get this, I was showing you this, they keep it all taped up, but it's the float for the fuel pump. They don't assemble that little part, but don't let this confuse you. This is easy. I mean, this, like I said, this is my first time, and I'm just like, let's do it. So we're gonna take this off gently. There's a little tie down here. Just be patient with it. Get everything off. Let's get that off easy. You don't want to bend anything. And then you can see, if you look at this side, it's amazing how these wires, they just sit into the fuel freestanding and it doesn't really eat them up, the material or the types of metal they use. But you want essentially this to fit in the same way this one does. And it looks like it's gonna go on the side here somehow. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at just yet, but I would think this would come down here. Maybe not. See, this is the part where we got to figure it all out. So it's probably going to go like this. This little clip is going to slide down into this area like that. And if you look at both the units, it looks pretty dang similar. So I'm gonna say, yeah, that's right. Double check it. The lines are gonna be a little bit different on here. Just be real careful with these guys. You don't want to break off any of these little clips on any of this. You do, and you're gonna have problems. But you can see right there is like the gauge, the digital gauge that reads and signals to your dashboard how full your fuel is. So now that we've gotten that put together, there's really not much more you're gonna do besides put that old clip on and get your float locked into place. Once you do that, it's time to just get this sucker in there and hook up your connection there and hook this up, put everything back together, put your fuse and your relays back on behind the glove box, and then we're gonna prime it. And I'll show you, it's really easy. You don't have to do nothing but just turn the key on to let the pump turn on and prime the fuel lines about 3 or 4 times. And then after that, we should be able to start it and we'll be in business. So let's get ready to install this. Okay guys, we're getting ready to install it. As you can see, I cleaned around the area really well. I was telling you about this new ring, this lock ring that comes in. It's gonna lock your fuel pump versus your old one. For some reason, when you get the OEs, like I mentioned, not the OEM, you get half the guarantee, and that half a guarantee that didn't work was that this would screw on to this pump. Now, if you have the tool, I'm sure you can force it on there, but this one doesn't really get deformed or have any issues, and most people just reuse the old one. So let's get this fuel pump in. Remember, we've got to get this part tucked under the lip of this hole first, kind of like this, and then we're gonna get that in. And that arrow that was up here was pointing to the back. So you want this to essentially face that way with this line facing out towards the driver's seat or the front. So let's see if we can do this and how hard it's gonna be. So I would say just kind of get that sucker all the way under there like that. And then be careful with these lines right here. Just kind of take your time. Don't shove everything up in there all crazy. Just slide it in nice and easy. Just like that. Look at that. I mean, in this ring right here, your gasket, make sure it stays on smooth and kind of wedge it. Now I know it's gonna feel like this thing doesn't want to go down, but it will. Trust me, it'll go down just like that. You got to put a little pressure because what's happening is the actual fuel pump is gonna push that part I showed you, the big boat, looks like the boat, is gonna sit down flush on the bottom of your tank and kind of bend up as you push this down. So now that we have this sitting in place right, we're gonna take our old ring and just slide it on over here, just like so. And then hold your pump down. You want your pump to be sitting flush, and then take your time. Don't cross thread it. Just let it eventually slide on, and it's not always as easy as it looks. Like look right now, I'm not, it may take a few times of messing with this ring to actually get it to thread right. There we go, see? Now look at that technique. 2 fingers here holding it down, using your left hand to just get it, and make sure this is straight again before you lock it all the way down. And do it by hand as much as you can first. Okay? And then that should keep the pump from shifting. As you go to tap it, it'll lock it into place a little bit. Don't go nuts with this, guys, please. Don't start hitting it so hard that you strip it or crack your lock ring, or you're gonna be pissed when you have to try to use this junk. So just tap it easy, just like this. Get it, when you put this in, don't hold it up and hit it. Get it down against the lip here. And then just slightly, look at that. See how it's going? Nice and easy. Just small little taps. Don't be in such a rush. If you're gonna be in a rush, pick another day to do this when you're not in a rush. And when you start to see that it's resisting, don't go nuts with it. Do it one more time on another peg, just slightly. And I think that's pretty good. That's probably gonna keep your seal from causing any type of seepage to come out of the sides here. And of course you can see there's no cracks, so now we're good. So this guy is just gonna sit right back on here like this, real nice and easy. And just take your time. Just push that guy up there like that. Look how smooth and nice that is. Man, just like that. Easy money. You don't want all kinds of headaches. And then of course this is just gonna slide right onto here and plug in. I would recommend maybe getting it primed first and starting it up. And making sure that you don't have any seepage coming out of fuel anywhere. Because if you do, you're gonna just start smelling it again and having more issues. And you don't wanna drive around 100-degree weather with fuel fumes coming in. And if you're a smoker, I mean, just use your imagination. So this is going to sit as the shape shows. You're gonna have to kinda, now look down there, you can see it's plugged in nicely. So we'll just go ahead and put this here. We'll get ready to put the screws in, but look how clean of a job that is, guys. Everything's really nice and clean in place, really easy. I didn't even have any trouble getting the pump in. If you do it the way I showed you on this particular video and take your time, you won't be fighting to get that pump down. And don't let the pump confuse you. When you're pushing it down, it's gonna feel like it's being restricted by something, but you have to firm it down, and that's the way the pump sits. And that'll keep the float in there angled at the right angle, so it'll read the amount of fuel you have correctly. So let's go and prime this, and we'll get it started and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so now that we've gotten the pump in, we're gonna put the fuse and the relay back in and put the panels back together. And then we'll prime this vehicle, so it'll prime the fuel back into the pump line. I already showed you guys how to take this out, so I don't think you really have to see me push a fuse back in by hand, but just put your number 15 fuse right back in the slot where you took it out before. And that's gonna be on this particular Honda. This is an 03 Honda Civic EX. This is going to be slot number 17. So, that's back in. Now let's go over to the other side. Go ahead to there and I'll get to the other side. Now your relay, which, if I had the little flashlight wherever that guy went.
It's back there.
Well anyways, so darn, this relay is just gonna pop back in, and the clips are already in the housing where it sits, so it'll just clip into place. Be smooth. Make sure that when you put it in that you have it face the right way, because if you don't, then it's not gonna sit inside, the clips aren't gonna sit inside right. Okay, so you wanna slide it in there, and you can see that little clip has gotta fit into the slot, and you're just gonna push it down in there. And it's not always as easy as it sounds. Sometimes you gotta put your hand on the bottom of the whole housing of the relay and then push it from the top. And what that does is that pushes it down, and it looks like the little clip is sitting perfectly in spot, so there it is. So don't get it confused, it's always the blue one. So when you're pulling it out, I mean, you don't have to look these up, just know it's the blue relay. So we're gonna go ahead and put the glove box in. I showed you guys, and I'm not gonna go hand for hand, but these two little screws, so you have to get these two nudges in kind of on an angle like this to fit around the sides. And once you do that, then you can put this up, and right here, these are gonna slide forward, and you're gonna put your 2 screws in, and that'll hold it in place. And then these panels are self-explanatory. They just have little clips that sit right in to put back over on either side. So those you should be able to figure out quite easy. Once we have that done, we'll prime it and start her up. Okay, so now that we got the relay put back behind the glove box and the glove box reinstalled, we also reinstalled the panel that's under the steering wheel where the number 15 fuse that sits in the number 17 slot that controls the fuel pump. We put that back in and put that panel back on. You want to go ahead and just put your gas cap back on, and then come on around to the battery. Put your negative back on, negative cable. Just snug it, don't go crazy. It's not like you have to torque a battery cable, as long as it's on there good. So now what we have to do is we need to prime the pump. And the way you prime it is you just put the key in the ignition and you turn it to the on mode but not start. All the way up to on but not start. What you should hear is the pump turn on. Kind of like a and that's the actual pump turning on and priming fuel through the line to the motor. So it's suggested that you do this about 3 to 4 times before you actually start it. Once we start it, we'll have a look in the back to make sure that the pump is not seeping out pressure. If that's good, then we can just put everything back together with a seat and we're good to go. So let's do that. See if you can hear it. Come in a little bit closer. You just heard that. Then when it stops, turn it off. And let's do it again. Here we go. That's the second time. Turn it off. And we'll do it one more time. And I would think that's good. I heard the pump do something back there. Hopefully that wasn't a bad sound. But let's put the seat forward. And I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna open the garage up so we can get all the exhaust out of the garage. Just like that. Now, what your job to do, cameraman, is just hold that lid up while you're filming. And I'm gonna start it and you tell me if you see anything weird. See any
no.
seepage coming out of any of the connections or around that lock ring anywhere?
No.
Oh wow, that sounds like success. And that's it, folks. Let's put this back together. We'll go ahead and just talk a few minutes while I put this back together about some things that may help you doing this fuel pump install. I'm gonna grab the screwdriver, I'll be right back. Okay, so as we put these screws in, we'll just do a recap. Get your pump on Amazon through my link, Review a TV. Subscribe while you're at it. Check comments for the links. When you get your pump in, you're gonna wanna take the steps to prepare yourself to actually replace the pump. You don't wanna just rip everything out. So, familiarize yourself with the areas of where the relay is in the glove box. Remember, it's only 2 screws on the very bottom of the glove box. Then the glove box will come out and gently release the clips that hold that relay in and pull the relay out gently itself. Then from there, what you wanna do is you want to turn on the car for a second and crank it. It's not actually going to start, but what it will do is it'll crank and release the pressure in the fuel line. After that, go ahead and pull your number 15 fuse that's under the steering wheel out and take the gas cap off of the gas tank area where you fill at. And then the last thing you'll do is you'll just take the negative cable off of your battery. Once that's done, then you can come into this compartment and start to do everything we just showed you in the video. And that'll be releasing the line, make sure you have a rag, a shop vac, all the things you want to do to clean this area up. Once you're done with that, if you take the time to take the pump out and put it back in on the angles I showed you, just be really patient. Don't be in a rush, especially if you're filming for a YouTube video. Don't make yourself nervous. This was my first time actually doing this, and besides doing some self-research, that's all that helped me to do this. So you can do it too. And if your car is anything like these Hondas where they have easy access to get to these fuel pumps, this job should be cake for you then. The pump only costed me about $90, and that's for the whole thing brand new. And it didn't cost me any labor, and overall this was probably a 2-hour video, which will be cut down. And the only reason is because we're filming in between each take, or I would have had this thing done in like 25-30 minutes. So you've seen the car start up, you've seen everything installed correctly. That's just how easy it is. Alright guys, so we got the car running. It's a do-it-yourself video. First time. If you go to do it, don't be discouraged. Just remember, anything's possible and you can save yourself a lot of money. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe.